So first of all, thank you very much for visiting and attending our side event, which is focusing on the public and private partnership and climate finance, is organized by the Mongolian delegation team. So my name is Margarot Tangero. I am from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change of Mongolia, and I'll be hosting today's session. And our session today aims to discuss and unite key stakeholders from public and private sector, and also as well as international sector, to discuss and exchange collaborative solutions for advancing sustainable solutions and climate finance in the future. And you know, the climate finance and insecurity and also the long-term financing issues are being discussed very significantly during the COP29 negotiations as one of the key topics for COP29 negotiation. So today, I will invite our dear panelists and opening remark delegations and also the panelists from the private and public sectors, and we will discuss and exchange our concerns and comments and exchange our interviews in the climate finance issues. And in this turn, I would like to invite Her Excellency Mrs. Odontuya Sada to deliver the opening remarks to this session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, partners, and colleagues. It is a great honor to welcome you all in our side event, where we highlight the power of partnership. Over the past 2 weeks, government leaders, scientists, practitioners, NGOs, public sector, and youth to come together to discuss how to collaborate effectively to achieve the Paris Agreement goals and ensure a just transition to a green future. The international community has sent a clear and urgent message. We must act now. We must increase climate investment and finance. And most importantly, we must act, we must work together. This momentum is not just for the international stage, it applies to Mongolia as well. Our private sector is beginning its journey toward a green transition, actively seeking efficient and sustainable solutions. At this important time, and as the newly restructured Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, we have reaffirmed our policy direction to align with this momentum. We're prioritizing 2 key areas to raise ambition and ensure a just transition. First, scaling up nature-based solutions to protect and restore ecosystems. Secondly, fostering public-private partnerships. Because using financial and market incentives to drive private sector-led transition in Mongolia, updated AMDC. To support this, we recently established a new advisory board focused on advancing public-private partnerships. I am pleased to share that some of its members are here with us today to further discuss this vision. Let us strengthen cooperation at all levels: government, business, and civil society. Only through unified efforts can we create a green, resilient, and thriving future for the generations to come. Thank you for your participation. And I wish you a productive discussion and effective collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Dela Dantuya, for delivering the brief information regarding the Mongolian nation policy and that the Mongolia is taking importance on climate finance issues and also inclusive on the parts of their participation. So now we would like to turn into the panel discussion session. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. My apologies. And I would like to also invite Mrs. Alana Traynor, Global Climate Policy Coordinator of United Nations Development Program.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here with you today. Climate change has been overshadowed by a complex global landscape. As the world reels from heightened divisions both between and within countries, energy security concerns and trade tensions, record-breaking temperatures rage on. 2023 was the hottest year on record, and 2024 is on track to be even hotter still. The interconnectedness between climate and development reflects not just the risks of impacts, but also the opportunities for ambition. Recognizing development and socio-economic benefits of climate action can help spur greater ambition. For example, strengthening the resilience of agricultural and land use practices can also address food insecurity, biodiversity loss, and contribute to mitigating greenhouse gas emissions. Investing 1.8 trillion globally in improved resilience could unlock benefits worth 7.1 trillion from now until 2030. As just one of the three major environmental conferences this year, occurring alongside the biodiversity and desertification COPs, it also underscores that a stable climate simply cannot exist without a stable natural environment, and a sustainable future requires healthy ecosystems and land. National climate plans, or NDCs, are therefore crucial instruments to help integrate the Rio Conventions and their targets, bringing together different line ministries, sectors, and national, regional, and global partners. With UNDP at the helm, our Climate Promise 2025 is a bold surge effort that convenes over 30 UN entities to support countries to align their next NDCs 3.0 with the Paris Agreement goals and the SDGs. This includes raising ambition while strengthening quality, inclusivity, and the investment potential that can allow countries to arrive at COP30 in Brazil in 2025 with a pathway to 1.5 degrees. This is a defining feature of UNDP's Climate Promise, which is helping countries to leverage new sources of finance that can be channeled to vital sustainable development areas like food security, green job creation, and the just transition to a circular economy. In short, NDCs must serve to identify entry points for impactful investments today, which will create opportunities for the many generations to come. If we are to harness the full potential of NDCs at scale and speed, we need to forge stronger partnerships between all groups represented here today and beyond. So as Your Excellency mentioned, from governance, youth, Indigenous peoples, and including the private sector, from local, national, regional, and global levels. For example, UNDP, under its joint UNDP-FAO Scala initiative, or Scaling Up Climate Ambition on Land Use and Agriculture through NDCs and National Adaptation Plans, is engaging private sector actors through a number of key actions, including 1. Analysing NDC and NAP priorities to identify entry points for private sector engagement and map potential private partners for their implementation. 2. Fostering exchanges with the private sector and support the development of partnerships between governments and businesses to advance climate goals. 3. Assessing climate impacts on priority value chains and develop an evidence base to encourage private sector investment. 4. Identifying and showcasing successful business models and production practices that support climate goals. And finally, identifying risks and investment barriers, as well as corresponding de-risking instruments and strategies that help address these barriers and incentivize private sector investment. We very much look forward to deepening our collaboration on these activities under Scala in Mongolia as one of our current partner countries in the years ahead. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, only by working together, engaging all actors at all levels, building trust and fostering collaboration can we succeed in reducing emissions, protecting nature and strengthening our societies now and for generations to come. UNDP and the UN system stands ready to support Mongolia in its efforts for ambitious climate solutions, helping deliver the ambitious 1.5 degrees and SDG-aligned outcomes the world is waiting to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elena. And now we are turning into our panel session, and I would like to invite our dear panelists to the floor. So first panelist will be from the Mongolian government side, Mrs. Chiloko Bakr, the climate change advisor to the Minister of Mongolia. And I would like to invite Mr. Yu Jun-ma, a senior manager at Global Partnerships at National Climate Change Secretariat Strategy Group of the Prime Minister's Office of Singapore. And so from the international partners, Mr. Gregor Sacker, Climate Finance Advisor and Project Lead, Socially Just Carbon Pricing at GIZ Competence Center on Climate Change. And I would like to invite Mr. Wei Garchenberger, VP Sustainability and ESG HBAR Foundation, to the floor. And next, Mr. Daniel Morrow, founder and CEO of Balance Eco. Then our next panelist would be from Mongolian Private Sector, Mr. Gumsehan Banjaro, Vice Chair of the Business Council of Mongolia. Please have a seat here. And also I would like to invite Mrs. Hishi Yinkbayer, co-founder of United Nations Association of Mongolia. And finally, I would like to invite our dear panel moderator, Mrs. Yurithma, Digital Innovation and Technology Advisor to the Minister of Mongolia also. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody, and I'm super delighted and honored to be moderating this session with our distinguished guests and wonderful panelists. And Your Excellency, I really appreciate your wonderful remarks opening the sessions. So as for today, we have such a diverse group, and as you can see, we're talking about more public-private partnership, how we can enable and accelerate the green and sustainable growth of Mongolia together. And throughout the talk, this has been the key messages. Yes, the financing has to be improved, and public sector and private sector collaboration has to be enabled. There has to be more innovations, more inclusivity, and just transitions among the not only just countries as well as the public and private sector partnerships. So I believe this is very timely topic that we are discussing, and very eager to see the different parts of this ecosystem. We have policy, we have global private sector, we have our global developers and organizations, and Mongolian private sector, as well as the civil society. So we're trying to keep a great balance all together. And since we are talking about public-private sector partnership, I think perhaps I start with Alex, who's representing the international private sector, especially from the technology perspective. You have been tackling this, and you have been tackling climate change through technology, innovation, as well as with the community together. And you have worked many different governments, you have worked many different project developers, you have worked with many corporations. So what do you think is the key points and enablers in how it's being solved through like PPP or private partnership?
And thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today. As part of the work that we do at the HR Foundation Sustainable Impact Fund, our mission is to bring the balance sheet of the planet to the public ledger. And as part of this cooperation and collaboration, we need to be able to all understand our shared balance sheet. We've heard about the three different COPs we have: biodiversity, desertification, climate change. And we need to understand the impacts we have on our planet and how we enable the coordination and communication even amongst these three different international conversations. It comes down to how we quantify our national determined contributions here in the climate change fund, and how we quantify and understand the methodologies for this accounting, and how Mongolia relates to the rest of the world is just as important how the rest of the world impacts Mongolia. And these digitized tools can be a vehicle for communication. It can be a sort of accounting system, so that we know what the impact looks like, how we look at deforestation, for example, in Mongolia, to combat desertification, which can be a thought process that we provide tools to help digitize the rule sets, give guidance to communities on how to better reforest these communities. It could be a tool for transparent communication, so we can understand when finance goes in, foreign direct investment comes into Mongolia to help support these projects. We're reporting that finance to climate activities to get to a quantifiable outcome. The rest of the world understands and says, I can invest in Mongolia, I can invest in communities in Mongolia, and make sure that that translates into an outcome that works for the NDC. I see an opportunity for these digital tools as collaboration, working in planning points here, as one of the very big opportunities that we have, not just here in this pavilion, this side of it, but across the different communities. And if we can better bring these digital tools as a vehicle for communication, just like we do person to person, WhatsApp, email, phone call, maybe we can use these same tools to be a system of knowledge to improve our collective understanding of how we get to our countries.
Thank you very apologies for that. Thank you very much. And it's quite interesting how the global approach is happening. And I want to direct the questions towards myself, who's our leader, representing the business council of Mongolia, and who represents the most private sector of Mongolia. My question is, you personally have been part of many climate-oriented businesses, and you have been recognized on how to cross policy synergies and navigating in Mongolia. How does the current investment in green climate as well as the sustainability aspects, how is it looking like? What do you feel that is needed to accelerate that, to improve that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Yes. Two things. I want to highlight perhaps energy transition. Right? So we're talking about just transition, and I think our speakers made it very clear that that's a priority. Mongolia is in the midst of an energy crisis. So we are an economy that is growing at 7-8%. And due to bad policies and lack of investment in the past, say 20 years, we're behind. So we need to get the megawatts into the system. And now everybody is at the point where energy transition is not an option. It's something that we need to go through. And hence, Minister Mongolia has asked the private sector to come and help lead discussions, right? By creating a platform. And you heard that she mentioned about this advisory panel that was created. And this is first time in my experience that our Minister creates this international advisory panel, inviting the private sector and with a view that let's discuss the issues. Right? And from a policy perspective, I, as the minister, will support more projects, and only then they invest in it. So that's without the projects, it's hard to get the money. The money is there, and we've been through many cycles in the past 15 to 20 years where we see the money, but the project wasn't there. but we see the demand. So I think I'm very grateful that this panel was created with a view that we can help shape better policies, and hopefully the ministry will make specific decisions. And then on the other hand, you have this very interesting setup politically in Mongolia today, which is a coalition government. So coalition government was designed to help with attracting investment, and particularly this energy transition investments. And we are, on one side, we always have this challenge in Mongolia where people think that because Mongolia has lots of coal, you can actually build coal power plants, and what's the issue? Yeah, that's not the world today. So bringing the companies who have the technology, and now you have, for example, on the wind side, when I was building the country's first wind farm 15 years ago, the largest turbine I was able to do on the Class 2A site was with 1.6 megawatts. And now I'm able to put 6-7 megawatt turbines, and these are onshore turbines. So the technology is really giving us that flexibility, and also the ability to really bridge these distances. So the other thing is battery storage, and that's something that everybody understands is going to give a small system, a small economy like Mongolia, the advantage to get to the next degree. So I'm grateful that the government is providing that support, and I'm hoping that we're going to have the first inaugural meeting of this advisory panel here in Baku tomorrow, and the panel members, including yourself, are here, and we have a number of people coming in from different parts of the world. So we will be discussing details tomorrow. And, I hope that this whole climate investment thing, at the end of the day, for me, it's the projects. If we have the projects ready, I think then the companies, the financiers.
Love the very insightful experience as well as the energy. Like, we are here, money is here, we're gonna make it happen. But we need more communication and conversation with the policymakers to see if it's right to have a more progressive. Next, I want to highlight a little bit. Yes, business is great. Private sector has always been the first innovators in policy using the trials. But on the other hand, we shouldn't forget that, especially in this sector, sustainability, green development, we have to not only care about the public things, but at the same time, we have to think about whether is it really a sustainable business? Is it good for the society? Is it really doing something impactful on the environment? And are we really tackling those issues? So I believe that I found when I first met Daniel on my first in-person just now, when I heard about the methodology, the balanced eco, it was something really fresh when it comes to counting, as well as we put everything there, science, investments, and as well as the civil society put together. And could you please elaborate a little bit on why did you start it, and where do you see that financing for smaller projects? There's then talk about mega projects, the bigger ones. And yes, the money is there, but what about smaller scales for those who cannot reach more? Not everybody can get financed on this, big banks or net funds. But how can we make it inclusive and make it more decentralized for those different projects? Could you please speak on that?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you all for having this forum. Great appreciation. So yes, the thinking behind balance comes from 30 years of experience with the carbon markets. For my sins, and I think people regard it as a sin, I co-coined the term carbon neutral. Movement Stern opened the Doha COP for the first time. And so I've been around this arena a long way, advised the down street, and published recently just balance is addressing the really awful step. You talk about economics, and you've got to put nature into economics and put the balance sheet. And this is what balance is about. And the historic view of what happened is the carbon markets evolved. And the carbon market over a 30-year period, it crawled up to $2 billion, which was tiny, and then just collapsed by 62% because of all the skull diversified practices. it's awful that people are going out creating projects for microfinance or thinking they can actually get carbon credit money, and the markets collapse and people don't trust it anymore. So the balance is a fresh start. Draw a line. Carbon credits, carbon neutral, it's finished. Let's do something new that is a real imagination and a creative way forward. So the principle is, as I say, putting nature into economics. So what we call a balance is we address biodiversity. Biodiversity, human rights, social economic well-being, and climate. And if you deal with all these three together, you've got a far better. If you deal with poverty on its own or biodiversity on its own and climate on its own, it's problematic. If you put them all together, it's a far keener approach. So this is the balance approach. And to that, we have a peer-reviewed methodology that's published in the International Journal of Sustainable Energy. There's as many crocodiles in the climate. We'll get the knowledge base out first. Barrister James Cameron early publication declared to Professor Felix Gold's UN Sustainability Data draft. And it's got 6 points to it, which I won't go into detail for time and over the recording, but just say to say the first is permanent, 100-year with the project developer. Oh, by the way, we're a methodology and a standard, so each standard can be used for a methodology, so we're not competing with each. But permanent's 100 years, CO2's lifetime 50 years and 50 years time. The global carbon credit system 40 years. So we have 100 years. Biodiversity creation, social and economic well-being with human rights, protection for money, go 40% yesterday for people who do beekeeping, agroforestry, permaculture, water fisheries, sustainable farming management, ecotourism, creating regenerative agriculture, and then the big one is also biochar. We pay $200 a ton, and that's CCS that actually works. People can use their own biochar, local charcoal, mixed with their food manure, digestible fish waste. They use that, and then we turn the biochar product into a balanced unit. We monitor the project, so the project developer every year can actually, the client can see the project as the biodiversity improves, and they get a social and economic report. Additionality, we also address the force majeure and the insurance system. And then we marry planting a sister tree near the client at the time in France, but between the time in the UK, so everybody gets off the cross to the front of the tree. The idea of that, why do we go into such a fuss about all of that? And the idea is to create real, tangible trust. Balance is the ethics around it. It prevents a company from having to do due diligence in the carbon. They have to say, our carbon offset is better than theirs, or we're rolling in steel metals and they have it, they've got cheap credits we have. Just draw a line under the whole thing. Now, this is the really important thing about Mongolia and the Mongolian government, is that with NDC, we're actually talking to a number of other countries, such as Bhutan, the Netherlands, and Sweden, and but specifically, we want to talk to you guys about that you as a government become the generator of the balance unit through the contract that we just described to those 6 points, creating well-being, creating biodiversity and economic development. But it goes on the country's balance sheet. We've now got a fresh market, which is we started in September, probably selling, we've done $2.1 million since September. You can see that multiple is going each quarter now with big investment companies, hedge funds, and banks, and tech companies also coming in who used to buy carbon credits, now going, oh, few of my balance units, I'm not going to get a call for it, because the NGO community also have to do it. But here's the exciting thing, it goes on your balance sheet, we've created a market for it, and as the country generates these units, balance units, it's something that you can actually borrow against, something that you actually have. So it's jiu-jitsu on resource extraction colonialism, because the only way to get this new resource out of the country is to do 3 things, which is create biodiversity, economics, and climate. And who's the net beneficiary of this is the global south and countries other than yourselves. An example could be the country becomes a balanced farmer, and this can roll out across many countries. We create a new asset because potentially similar size to
That was a crash course in climate So I think now we heard the private sector globally what's happening and stats from global institutes. I'd like to move the dialogue with the I was personally very excited when the new government created skills and then actually we have a dedicated ministry on climate change and climate change. And we have a fierce female leader on top of that. And it was very exciting transition. It really communicated outside of the world. We are serious about it and we're going to do good things on this and we really want to make more cohesive policies. And now a very close advisor, especially on the climate change and climate policies. What are your takes and what is the vision and what's the plan now to support and work together with the private sector?
Good afternoon, colleagues. I think like government is little bit behind, but private sector has different tools, different initiatives are already ahead of us. I think I personally that under the leadership of the new government and our Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, we put together a specific team and within the ministry as well as a support team, as a private advisory board to accelerate the foundation. Government policy is actually the driver for the private sector to come in and invest. But we just, but policy is not a policy, it has to be the sustainable policy. It should not be, dissolved after 2 years, but it's not, it requires like I forgot his name, sorry, Mr. Morris mentioned that you need to ensure that permanence of 100 years, for instance, if you want to engage nature-based carbon market. So we need to solid foundation, solid legal framework and policy in place. That's our priority. So at this moment we are working on drafting the legal draft framework law on climate change. We don't have a climate change law, but we are working on it because we really want to have a strong legal framework to be in place so that we could ensure the trust, building the trust with the private sector so we could cooperate in the long term. We want to ensure the sustainability of the policy. At the same time, it's a great time actually to set up the carbon market mechanism in Mongolia because there is quite many private sector interest in it as well as the international market in, just launched during this COP, the Article 4.6 as well as the Article 6.4 is progressing and we are working on with different partners, not just us, but GIZ, UNDP, and World Bank Group, and all ADP, different partners were collaborating to synergize the process so that we could accelerate the implementation. And Article 6 governance is being drafted as I speak, and we're negotiating with the bilateral carbon markets with Japan. We already established and has 10 years of experience. Also, additionally, Korea and Singapore, we are concluding the negotiations on carbon market. So why we have to, there are also local initiatives on carbon market as well. We really want to engage with everybody. Why? Because we don't have much of a time. We only do have maybe 5-6 years until 2030. So we really want to accelerate the process. We want to engage with everybody. So in order to do that, enable the collaboration, the government framework, legal framework, policy framework, infrastructure should be in place. So that is where we are working with different partners. And we welcome the private sector as well. As the minister established the private advisory board. So I really think this initiative will sustainably and practically implemented in Mongolia, and so that we could really show the leadership of Mongolia in terms of green transition
and sustainable development. So, thank you. Very, very comforting to hear someone coming from the private sector, especially working in the climate tech recently. And like I said, I'm quite excited about the government and leadership as well, taking like open stance and open for collaboration of the global and local partners. And I would like to direct the questions to Ijun, and not just because you're coming from the Singaporean government side, but also when it comes to private sector, you can also invest in Singapore has always been our important partner. Really, a lot of companies like tech, investment finance, and many other projects, we always have someone from Singapore coming in as an LP or financer or on the management side. And Singaporean government, Mongolian government always work closely as we are kind of, when it comes to our population smaller, but you guys have somewhat figured out accelerating a lot of different technologies and enforcing good policies into your businesses. So I would like to ask, what are your thoughts on, how can the private sector plays, what kind of role it plays to enable or accelerate carbon markets, and have you seen like great practices from your country perspective? If so, what would you kind of recommend or just highlight should Mongolia should think ahead when working public and private together?
Thank you very much for just maybe start a little bit more on the case of public markets that my spoke as well. Talk a little bit more about the role of governments in stimulating participation. The higher level committee on climate finance found previously that there is an annual climate finance gap of $2.4 trillion for developing countries. And that's something that they every year from now. That's a very significant financing gap to achieve mitigation that will keep us to 1.5 degrees. Compared to the previous $100 billion goal that we had every year, clearly public finance is very short. So the notion of carbon markets really is about putting a price on carbon. It is about seeing how we mobilize private capital. Otherwise, we don't have the opportunity to into the countries that need the most projects. And redirect most of those finance from places with this investment to the countries and projects that and so that's something that I think is the reason why carbon markets is so important. And according to some projections for the BNF, by 2050, a high quality functioning carbon market could be worth $1.1 trillion in 2050. That's a significant amount of private capital to be mobilized on the condition that it extends out. And I think this is where the role of governments in is covered. And I'll just speak to maybe 3 items. I think governments are important to help structure the landscape for effective participation of the private sector. One of the use cases, for example, is the way that we regulate claims against our parents. So, for example, in Singapore, we have a carbon tax. We're the first country in Southeast Asia to impose a carbon tax. And right now it's at $25 per ton. We're raising it to $45 per ton in 2026. And we expect it to land somewhere between $50 to $80 per ton in 2030. And we think that putting up the right price on carbon provides the right incentive to companies that decarbonize. But what we'll also say is, for carbon tax liable companies, you can offset 5% of your taxpayer emissions with other systems. So not only are we incentivizing companies to decarbonize, but also creating an incentive for the private sector to purchase carbon credits. And that's something that I think we found very useful. I think the other 2 things that we found in terms of the role of government to help companies participate in carbon markets, one of which would be national frameworks, understanding which agencies regulate which parts of the carbon market, as well as the use cases for carbon credits, but also on the other hand as well, how do you look at an emissions inventory, and also which sectors are going to credit from, as well as domestic practices. So some of these things are things that we found best practices in our own journey to carbon markets as well. But in general, I think the role of governments is to set those standards for the private sector to participate. And they need as well to above and beyond the people who are to environmental. So even for us, we have our own government developed standards about higher integrity credits as well. But also just to add on, I would say, Singapore and Mongolia have been close partners. We're turning 55 in our friendship next year, and so we've been in talks the last 2 years to really work together on carbon markets with a memorandum of understanding about these things. In our view, carbon markets really are about giving countries ownership of their own futures, making sure that choice doesn't have to be between carbon reductions or renewables and economic development, and helping countries make use of their natural assets and opportunities that have to be opportunities. And I think in Mongolia, ATNC has even estimated that every year between now and 2030, there's potential for 240,000 tons of emissions reductions of renewables just from nature resources. And that's just the nature resources, even more from other sectors. So I think carbon markets for us represents a potential window into the economic and decarbonization opportunities that exist. And where Singapore and Mongolia is very good. I think that's something that we think is potentially worth
Very example, I love how you talk of like precise numbers and how I personally as well as I'm pretty sure that audience hearing as well as our private sector colleagues that agree that it is a great practice that we have seen. It's a great example of Singaporean private and public sector work together to enable really the green growth. And up until now, we have heard our public sector and private sector all trying to work together. Yes, let's do it. Money is there, technology is here, policy will be made. We have a vision. But when it comes to all this bigger scope ecosystem, a lot of people gets left behind. Does the climate finance really truly reach those who are in need? You know, the people who get the most affected by the climate changes are those who do not have the most economic power. And is it being just? And how do we ensure that this is a just transition, that everybody's included, everybody has access to the finance? And I would like to turn the table towards our civil society as well as our global developer partners. And Kishli, perhaps you can touch upon who's really truly left behind and how can we enable them to be part of the table and make sure that they are having access to what all these wonderful partnerships, projects, economic growth is happening.
Thank you so much. I think we have to remember that at the center of it all, what are we doing this for? It's for the people, right? And I think sometimes when we're in the midst of all of these discussions, we sometimes forget that. And that's where civil society really comes in, to remind people that what we're working here for is really for the well-being of people. And especially children, young people and women are really being hit the hardest due to climate change. And the issues with civil society is that I think our partners sometimes don't trust us really to be able to really catalyze all of these different partnerships, because civil society in itself is very, very flexible. And I think that flexibility is really something that can be very much utilized by all of these partnerships to really create something meaningful that is also very accessible for everybody. Because if the people are not really behind all of these initiatives and really powering these initiatives, these can really stop very quickly. For example, in renewable energy, for example, some projects have been stopped because the people have not really agreed to it, right? And we can go on to different aspects. That's one. Number two is there is limited capacity by the people to understand what is happening with all of these discussions, global level discussions, and even national level discussions. So that's why it's very important for civil society to be there, to really help build capacity, to really help people understand what is going on throughout all of these discussions. Because otherwise, people are really being left behind, because these ideas are very flowing very fast. Sometimes they're very hard to understand for people who've even graduated with these majors. So it's very important to make these difficult tasks and topics into very concrete, on the ground, smaller bites, so that even children can understand, because it's the children and young people's future that we are building here today. So that's why we at the UN Association of Mongolia have been very actively working with the government to create these spaces
and mechanisms for young people's participation in decision making, because they have to be part of the conversation, and they also have to be capable enough to be able to provide very good recommendations. So that's why we've focused a lot on capacity building of children and young people, for them to have very active involvement, but also to create these safe and inclusive spaces for their thoughts and ideas to be included in decision making. Because we are all really building a world for each other, right? And that's what I would like to really emphasize, is that it's very important for us all to really remind ourselves that we are working for the people, for the children and young people, and it's very important for us to create these safe and inclusive spaces. And civil society can really be the glue that really brings everybody together. Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this panel. Honorary Minister Sudan, thank you for inviting me to this. Then it's of course not so easy to speak after such an inspiring talk. I still hope that I can bring some additional points. We first want to say about GIZ. So GIZ is owned by the German government. We are implementing technical assistance. Our main funders are from German ministries, the World Coordination, but also other governments throughout the world, and to the private sector and philanthropy. Having that said, so I think this year is the year of 50 years celebration of 50 years of German Mongolian cooperation, so almost as one in Singapore. So there has been a cooperation throughout many decades. I think this cooperation is very high from both sides. So now a bit more to the question. Let me start with some facts and figures. They show my sheet of paper, that I got it in. Often, when I'm working with countries on climate change and mitigation, there are a lot of messages on that this country is only contributing so much to climate change, so others need to step up. And Mongolia could make the same argument, because given that the low population in Mongolia contributes 0.12% to the total consumption. However, I would invite you to not do that, because Mongolia is also among the countries suffering quite strongly from climate change. I think the results include more can be reached instead of each country sense of pressure and contributing so much. And very few countries making a difference in. And also a bit of a different angle in terms of per capita. Mongolia is also having slightly different. 17th among the world's highest per capita. CO2 emissions is caused largely because of the highest general coal and energy generation. Now, also having a bit the glasses on having a bit of view on what that means for justice and for also looking at vulnerable populations. Given the current environment of coal for energy generation, because there is a whole issue with the dependence on two countries. But quite obviously, that also brings quite detrimental effects to health. And the findings in Mongolia are famous, famous, so to say. So quite obviously, there are very negative effects on health. And those most vulnerable, the children, are those who are least equipped to cope with. So now maybe two ways how to tackle that also from a systematic approach. Of course, I believe also pursuing these private investments and build the private sector is absolutely necessary to also look at things systemically and also work on those systemic shifts. Just for example, let me start with the NEC process. And it's maybe not so obvious how that relates to private investments. However, if you take a closer look at NEC, you can feel hopefully needs, of course, ambitions to be raised. That's a core thing with the NECs that ambitions should be raised over time. However, NEC group also needs to really cover all sectors comprehensively, to put down measurable targets and to increase at least estimates how these targets, what kind of finances is needed for them. So to some extent, much like a business plan, the private sector is what we have to do in order to kind of able as a private sector to invest in these fields, really to get these numbers. So, and the second point that was already discussed, the ratio of prices is implemented when it comes to my partnership, just been to Mongolia last month. We work on pricing policies. We are supporting Mongolia in different modeling exercises. Also showing that carbon pricing, for example, for carbon tax, can actually be actually have positive effects not just on the reduction of emissions, but also on macroeconomic factors such as GDP and employment. And also, we also look quite closely on so-called distributional impacts. So how does a carbon price affect different groups in society, and what are strategies to counterbalance those effects? Because quite surely, again, because of carbon price deficits over time get more expensive. These funds raised from the government should be used, of course, to put up some money for making the green transition happening, but also to support those vulnerable groups that are most. And stop here for now. Happy to discuss on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wish we had more time because all the parties involved, you really could talk for hours, really, and really appreciate all your time and insights. And unfortunately, we are running a little bit short on time, and I want to maybe pass the microphone around and each of you, if you wanted to say or raise certain points that was not covered, and perhaps within a minute, if you want to give a wrap up and your last remarks, that so we can conclude our session.
Mongolia's future is even brighter than so.
I wish more people know about, have the same understanding of the climate finance and carbon finance, and I really want to focus on that. We should work on the not knowing. Many people, as Kisha mentioned, not knowing about what's climate change and what's carbon market, and they are really in a risk of left behind. So I wish everybody knows about this issue, everybody wants that one standing at the same table, so we could collaborate even effectively and achieve the long-term target in the short time.
Thank you so much to all the distinguished panels and all the participants. I think this panel has really a very good understanding of really working together, especially for the most vulnerable, through partnerships. And in that sense, I wanted to also highlight how it's very important to have and build trust in everything that we do, especially from a civil society perspective. We work very hard to build our own capacity as well as the capacity of of people. So we are working very hard to be as trustworthy and as reliable as possible. So we hope that all of our other partners also do put their trust in us to be able to really collectively deliver on these global, national, and even our own personal promises. So thank you.
Actually, I have something for you to consider, right? So what Gregor was saying is that, yes, I think energy intensity is high, per capita, the CO2 emissions is quite high in Europe. But oftentimes people, I think, forget the fact that Mongolia is per capita, I think the country that uses renewable energy the most. You know that? Okay, so it's actually a result of good policy, right? So about 20 some years ago, there was a program called 100,000 solar gears. So ger is the dwelling, our traditional home that people live in. And now about 300,000 people live off-grid using only solar energy for the lighting purposes, right? And that's not only for lighting, but then it connects you to the internet, it connects you to the phone, connects you to the satellite, and then it gives you an ability to have fridge, and basically those modern day appliances that 20 years ago there was handled. So I think if we take that into account, right, and I think you can actually lead that effort to really do a proper accounting, then those numbers should actually come down. Yes, I agree. UB suffers from pollution, and we are working hard to fix that. And I think many people in this room are actually working on technologies and solutions on that. But let's also do proper accounting so that we can take into consideration how much we have been relying on technology, particularly solar energy, in the last years.
Yeah, thank you. So there are amazing solutions on the off-grid energy solutions, and certainly the country like Mongolia part of the solution. GIZ stands ready to further support work with Mongolia. As I have mentioned, we've done this work with the through the CPAP project. We are doing work in the energy sector, also on energy systems reforms. We are supporting on not just the climate change law, but also the forestry law and others. So it's really important to look at these collaboratively, work collaboratively, and push things ahead, because time is not our friend. So we need to speed up. Still, we need to also get these systemic preconditions right. Also for the carbon markets in Aspect 6, it's important to really have a strategy in place in the country to really decide which kind of, for example, mitigation alternative we can sell, which kind we can take on the loan. So all that depends on proper accounting. Also, that in a strategy. And speed up. Wanted to speed up, but still to things forward. Thank you.
I think there's a big opportunity, we just heard from the panel, to enable access to better accounting, better infrastructure, whether it's for Article 6.2 or for better accounting for the impact. Whether it's for the purpose of private sector engagement and exports into Europe, or whether it's for better accounting of the urbanization and the transition the economic perspective and contribution, we'd be very open to helping facilitate that with our own infrastructure solutions to get people to run this. I think the digitized and open source methodologies in the world, many of which are being considered in the Article 6 discussions, 6.4, but also 6.2, and voluntary carbon market standards. And we encourage the use of the system for the purpose of collaboration and enabling investment, as well as better managing and measuring inventories. I think the opportunity is to use that as a communication tool tell the rest of the world the opportunity in Mongolia, whether it's for those private sector projects, but also for communicating that we're Mongolia's arguments and encouraging collaboration and thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you too. Thoroughly enjoyed being here with everybody, such experts. Yeah, so my summing up would be trust, integrity, or its opportunity. I think those are the things that we need to focus on moving forward. And I totally get your point about how the market been successful. Of course, I would have loved that to have happened, having been in it for 30 years. But the fact that it dropped by 62% last year is a fact you can't deny. And the fact that indigenous people get cleared out of land, human rights problems around carbon credits, the fact that you've got those credits out there, and that the market in the corporate world, as people don't want to buy it, means that we need to do something really fresh and new. And that is the endeavour to put the environment into the balance sheet, to put Mother Nature in there, to actually address economics, to address biodiversity creation, to combine it with climate, and then create a fresh new approach that gets the opportunity for not just a carbon market, but a new market that's 10x over the size or 100x over the 2 billion that we've gone up to. And what have we got? We've got 48 gigatons a year, roughly. We've got 200 left in our budget. So how long does that give us? 4 and a bit years. I mean, come on, guys, we've really got to get this sorted out. So now is the time for action, and now is the time for a fresh, new approach.
Thank you so much. It's quite exciting. Also, as we agreed, I believe each panelist kind of highlighted we've got the money, we've got the technology, we have the will to do it. But as we implement all this together, we have very thorough, conducive policies that keep us supporting it as a great infrastructure, and then civil society as well, watching and that's how you put it together here with Blue, right? And working together, and we all agree that we don't have time, but we have all the resources, all the people that we need to tackle this challenge together. And I personally hope that with Mongolia, we can set a great example to the rest of the world, be the leader in this scope. And with that, I would like to conclude our panel discussion today, and really appreciate all of you time, patience, flexibility, because the panel was put together pretty much last minute, but really appreciate all your time, insights, knowledges, and come to Mongolia when you can and work with us. And thank you. Let's take a picture together, all of them.